Application number 224-25, Leonardo Neal and Joanna Aliaga. Permission to leave driveway having side yard of 3 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence AA District, west side of Radburn Drive, 189.5 feet south of John Street, Hauppauge.
Good evening. Joanna Aliaga, resident of 10 Redwood Drive, Hauppauge, New York, 11788.
Good evening. You're here just on the side yard?
Yes.
Any questions from the board at this time? Planning, any comments?
No comment.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this matter?
All right, thank you. Good night. Thanks.
Application number 225-25, Jose Ayala. Permission to leave above-ground pool having side yard of 13.5 feet instead of required 14 feet. Residence A District, east side of Ferndale Boulevard, 205 feet south of Chestnut Street, Central Islip.
Your name and address, please,
Jose Mayala,
and your address?
751 Ferndale Boulevard, Central Islip, New York, 11722.
Thank you. You're here just on the side yard for the pool?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the board at this time?
No question.
Planning, any comments?
No comment.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application is granted. Thank you.
Application number 226-25, Stephen and Susan Heiderstadt. Permission to leave second-story deck having front yard of 21.2 feet instead of required 25 feet, second front yard of 8.9 feet instead of required 15 feet, and side yard of 8.7 feet instead of required 10 feet. Attached shed, 3.5 by 8, having rear yard of 19.4 feet instead of required 25 feet, and shed 7.9 by 16, having side yard of 0.8 feet and rear yard of 2.4 feet instead of required 10 feet each, resulting in floor area ratio of 43% instead of permitted 30%. Residence BAA District, southeast corner of Pine Street and Maple Court, Kismet.
Good evening, Thomas B. Licari, 127 West Main Street, East Islip, for the applicant. This application is basically a redo. This was originally submitted and approved by the board in 2005 under application number 468.05. The only difference is that in 2005, the applicable FAR was 49.4 of what they counted. Today, it was calculated at 43%, not counting the 4-foot wide walk-arounds or the shed. The lot is 40 by 80. It's common for most of the lots on Pine and Oak Walks. Virtually every lot on those two streets is substandard and would require some form of relief. The house size itself is consistent with most of the houses in Kismet other than the McMansions that are currently being built. Okay? This was never finalized in 2005 because Steve was under the impression that Bill Sukow was completing the process, getting the ZBA, following up with the CO, which obviously was never done. Steve and Sue then started having families. I think you have 3 kids?
He's referring to that.
4 kids. I was off by 1.
Mr. Licari, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The FAR is 43%.
Yes.
Can you tell me, is that in keeping the nature and character of the
That's
neighborhood?
absolutely in the nature and character. I have a list of several homes in the neighborhood that
500 feet?
within 500 feet that are less than the
Yes.
greater than the 30% FAR. I don't know which ones are with 500 feet. Vasella and Tucker, application 59310 at 66 Pine. That's approximately 50% FAR under the current calculations. Major, the application was in 2018. That is at 56%.
And you're at a measly 43.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
good.
It's consistent with the area. It's consistent with the homes and the variances that have been previously granted by the ZBA, especially for the 40-foot lots. I submitted several surveys from 1991, 2005, and 2024. There's been no change in that house since the original application in 2005, and actually that house existed the way it is today well before 1980. So, I don't know if Sam is here. I had a Oh. I have Sam Wood here. Sam is a builder, he's a historian for Kismet, and he can certainly give a little bit more history as to when this house was completed to the extent it exists today. Sam? Sam Wood's a local builder, well-respected, and he's...
Mr. Carey, I think you've done such a wonderful job.
All right, we
I'm
don't
probably ready to vote. We'd love to hear you, but...
Let's just see if planning has any, planning any comments on this?
No, I would just back up what he said. It was already approved for the most part, and it's well within the character of the neighborhood.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second.
Second, all in
Thank you,
favor?
everybody.
Aye.
Thank you.
Application's
Good evening.
granted.
Thank you.
Application number 227-25, Anthony and Gina Criscuola. Permission to leave pool patio and equipment having rear yard of 5 feet instead of required 6 feet. Patio on side and rear property line not having a required setback of 4 feet each. Rear yard landscaping of 23% instead of required 40%. Driveway having side yard of 3.5 feet instead of required 4 feet. And 4-foot fence in driveway site triangle exceeding permitted height of 3 feet. Residence A District, east side of Foster Avenue, 573.19 feet south of Terry Street, Sayville.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, William Garbarino, 40 Main Street, Sayville, New York, for the applicant. Most of the requests here are minimal. The only one that's got any substance is the landscaping relaxation request. I just want to make the board aware that the homeowner was before this board in 2017, got a variance, side yard and rear yard variance for the pool. And what happened was the pool never got inspected. The pool got put in by a pool company, never got inspected, which is legion in the pool industry on Long Island. No pool company wants to take responsibility to get the required COs. They get the permit, but they don't finish up. So now the homeowners had to come back in here, and since that time, things have changed. The law before September 15th of 2020 didn't have any landscaping maximum in your rear yard. What it was is that you couldn't have any decks or patios bigger than a certain percentage. The pool was put in 2018. At that time, that was the law. In 20, it changed. The applicant has 23.3% area now. I've met with various people, and if you look at the survey of the property, in the southeast corner is a shed. Behind the shed and to the south of the shed is a concrete walk slab. We are proposing we've spoken to a contractor to remove that. That gives us about another 109 square feet, which brings our percentage up to 26.6. It's important to note that that area abuts wetlands. This property on the east is abutted by wetlands. This lot and the lot to the south are very small lots, which exacerbates the situation with how much area you can have in your backyard. But if we remove the slabs in that area, we'll help the drainage problem, and any drainage will seep into the soil rather than going into the large wetland area behind. As to the site triangle issue, we're asking for a variance. I have some pictures to submit here today, and I'll hand them up to the board because I think they spell out the fence. They also spell out the necessity of a variance to the site triangle of 2 inches, 38 inches rather than 36. And the rear yard area you can see to the rear and south of the of the shed back there, which they got a variance for back in 2017. They got variances for basically everything on this property. The only reason they're back here is because of the change in the ordinance to the 4-foot driveway from the side yard and items like that. If you balance the equities, the benefit to the applicant versus any effect on the nature and character of the neighborhood, I'd have to say that the variance request, most of the variance requests are de minimis, except for the landscape portion, and that was not here or the law when this pool and these improvements were made. Based on that, I'll hear planning and reserve my time to answer any questions. It predates the landscaping requirement of 40% in your backyard, definitely. That was put in September 15th of 2020. These improvements were put in 2018. The applicant was before this board to get a variance before he put the pool in.
So, based on that, you're just thinking out loud. If somebody could come in next week and say, I want the same thing that Mr.
Chrysolia. Yeah, I think that's a point. I don't think you're going to open up any precedent here, and I request that the application be granted. That's fine.
But, so, all right, so your client predates the rear yard landscaping requirement.
Right.
Which replaced the rear yard occupancy.
Right.
Was he in compliance with that?
No, he was not, but he would be in compliance with the variance that you granted at that time. 30% was your rule. You granted up to 40%, which he would have complied with.
I would just back up what he ended with right there. So it wouldn't have been in conformance necessarily before, but it was within the general range that the board would usually grant, as was attested to me by zoning. They did the measurements themselves. And based on that, yeah, it does seem like this was predating rear yard landscaping at a time where it would have been rear yard occupancy. The board probably would have granted it with the numbers that they were back then. So really, as he also spoke to, the only issue planning did have was that concrete area around the shed, which I believe is being called out as the patio on the side and rear property line here as well, due to potential for flooding issues, whether that be off into the wetlands behind them or onto the neighbor's property coming from the wetlands. So long as that's resolved, either return to landscaping or even pervious gravel, planning has no other issue. No comment.
That's the height. The pole, well, that's with the pole, but the fence itself is 38. If you look to the slat, to the. All right, 39, but you can see through. I also gave you a picture of the driveway to the street. There is absolutely no question. It's not a stone wall, and you can see through it. With the removal of the concrete slab behind the shed and south of the shed, and putting in pervious area, either grass or gravel, I think it came up to 26.6% from 23. So in addition of another 109 square feet. What you got to understand is this lot, by its existence and size, is got a problem. all small lots have a problem when you look at a rear yard and say 40% has to be landscape because you can't really do anything in your rear yard. Right. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Application number 228-25, Kristen Perosi, Life Estate to Ann and Jean Perosi. Permission to renew permit for two-family, family use only, and to leave patio having side yard of 2.2 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence B District, northeast corner of Belmore Avenue and East Madison Street, East Islip.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services, with offices at 231 Islip Avenue, Islip, New York. Trella, T as in Tom, R-E-L-A. You're welcome. We are here to renew a permit for two-family, family use only. It was for the medical criteria. We did submit an updated doctor's note, and we're also here for the patio that has a side yard of 2.2 instead of 4 feet.
Okay, any questions from the board at this time?
No questions.
No. Planning, any comments on this?
No comment.
Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this matter? All right, I'll take a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Thank you.
Application is granted for a period of 3 years.
Thank you.
Application number 229-25, Marvin and Myrna Garcia. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-602, and to leave driveway having side yard of 1.7 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence A District, north side of Van Cedar Street, 87.65 feet east of Adams Avenue, Brentwood.
Good evening again. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services, with offices at 231 Islip Avenue, Islip, New York. We are here to establish an accessory apartment and to leave a driveway having a side yard of 1.7 instead of the 4 feet required. The apartment is 630 square feet. It's owner occupied, and engineering did inspect the driveway. There are a couple of things that need to be fixed, which are all in progress and subject to tonight's hearing.
Okay, any questions from the board at this time?
No questions.
Planning, any comments?
No comment.
Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this matter? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Chris?
Second?
Subject to compliance with engineering.
All right,
All in favor?
aye.
Application is granted, subject to engineering, and for a period of 3 years.
Application number 123-25, adjourned from March 18, 2025, 313 Southport LLC. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-602, and to leave patio having side yard of 0.4 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence A District, north side of Southport Street, 142.8 feet east of 17th Avenue, Ronkonkoma.
Good evening again. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services, with offices at 231 Islip Avenue, Islip, New York. This was adjourned from March 18th. At that hearing, there was a neighbor who had some concerns about commercial vehicles being on the property and in the rear yard. We did schedule an inspection with code enforcement. The inspection was completed last Thursday. He did find that there were no commercial vehicles on the property or in the rear. However, he did note some concerns in his report about free flow in the rest of the dwelling. So I just wanted to address those. There is a doorway at the bottom of the stairs going from the second floor to the first floor, as well as a bedroom on the right side. Both of those items are to be removed. They're marked as to be removed in the plans that were submitted with the building permit application. However, the construction has not been done yet because we need to proceed with the hearing tonight in order for the permit to be issued. Once the permit is issued, then the work will be completed, there will be free flow, and there will be a building inspection to confirm that free flow. I'm not sure where that came about. The owner lives there. She was at the property. Her license shows at the property. She has all of her paperwork going to the property. I attempted to be at the inspection, but unfortunately, the inspector was delayed, and he didn't get there until, I think, about an hour and a half later, and I had to leave to another one, so I'm not sure what happened. I did ask the client if she had stated anything of the sort. She said that she had not. I did bring her license, Mary, if that's what you're looking for. Excuse me? Her license, yes. I believe when she purchased the property, then she put it right into an LLC. And when she originally had changed her license when she bought it, but DMV tells you to just write the new address on the back. So once we started the process, I told her we needed her actual photo ID to say the address. So she went back and she got the license updated, so it actually says it on the physical license now, which I do have a copy of if you guys want to see it.
The reason the board adjourned the case was that so you could obtain this inspection report, and as the board can see, it was only recently performed. There was an opponent here who was at the first hearing, or somebody with concerns? Guess they're not here.
Anyone else would like to be heard in
Yes,
this
she
matter?
came and talked about the cars.
Yeah, she was mostly concerned about a trailer and cars being stored in the backyard. Just for the record, I don't recall there being a discussion of the owner not living there from the opponent. That wasn't part of the reason we adjourned the case, but.
I
He
believe she
says-
was asked at the last hearing, and I believe she said that she did see her there. Because I believe that was one of the questions that was asked to the neighbor at the time.
I'm thinking that the investigator didn't just put it in there just for the heck of it. There's something I'm sure. Here's what I'm going to suggest to the board. Why don't we adjourn this so we can get a report from the investigator of what he was basing that statement on?
Okay.
Okay. Before we do that, planning, any comments on this?
Or reserved, were you adjourned?
We reserve.
Yes, he said
No
adjourned.
comments?
Oh, reserve.
Reserved.
And no one else would like to be heard in this matter? All right, as far as the side yard on the patio, we're okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we'll reserve decision. I'll take a motion to reserve decision.
Motion to reserve decision.
Take a second, all in favor? Aye. So reserve decision.
And Roxanne, I will contact the inspector and get clarification on that.
Thank you.
Application number 230-25, Larry Stoddard and Stephanie Stoddard. Permission to leave roofed-over patio, 8 by 24, attached to detached garage, leaving side yard of 1.3 feet instead of required 10 feet, and air conditioning unit having side yard of 0.2 feet instead of required 2 feet. Residence B District, north side of River Street, 200.89 feet east of Foster Avenue, Sayville.
Good evening again. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services, with offices at 231 Islip Avenue, Islip, New York. So we're here for the AC unit. The AC unit's been there for about 15 to 20 years. They have obtained COs in the meantime, and for some reason it didn't come up until now. And then we have the roof-over patio attached to the detached garage. It's being called out as a roof-over patio. It's more like an enclosure. It's about 4 to 6 feet in height. It's attached to the detached garage, and it's used solely for storage. I did bring photos of it just to show that he keeps like his firewood in there and lawn equipment. And I brought a photo of the front of the garage so that you can see to the left of it is a very small fence that opens up, and it's almost used as an attached shed, not really a roof over patio. And another concern that is not in the call of the meeting, but I just wanted to bring up was this house has been before the board twice. It was here before the board in 2009 for the detached garage itself, and it was denied at that point because of the height. He came back, not this owner, the previous owner came back in 2010, their height conformed. But as part of that decision, they were supposed to remove the patio that was underneath this roof over enclosure. And it still appears on the survey today. I think it was put as a condition during that hearing in 2010 because there were some concerns from the neighboring property saying that it was going to cause flooding. That neighbor and the previous owner no longer live there. There are two new owners now. We did speak to the affected neighbor. They did provide a letter, which we forwarded to the zoning board office this afternoon, saying that they've lived there for 3.5 years. There's never been any flooding on the property. They're not sure why there were ever any complaints. They even went as far as to take photos during the rainstorms that we've had in the past 2 days to show that there's no flooding on either property at all. I think what I meant to say, it's not your typical roof over where you would have a barbecue or a chair set up underneath where people would congregate. This is more of a very low-lying structure. No one can fit under it, not even if they were seated in a chair. It's used solely for storage, and it's more of an attached shed. I think it should be clarified in the decision that it's not a typical roof over, it's more of an enclosure. So if he were to replace this enclosure with, let's say, a shed the same exact size, it would only need a 4-foot setback. Right, so that's what I was saying. If this were a shed instead of the roof over.
I don't really have too much to add to this. She was forthright about it. I do agree, it's a bit weird to be calling it a roof over. It does kind of feel like more of a closure. I also don't think that's really the most relevant point here. It's on the concrete there, it's very close to the property line. It's on the concrete that was conditioned to be removed, although it does seem like the circumstances around that have changed, as she explained, where the neighbor's not really upset with it. So it's a difficult application. I don't really have much to add beyond what's already been discussed.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard in this matter?
Well, the garage itself is only about 8 feet, so I think even if we were to, let's say, cut half of it off, we'd be at 4 instead of 10.
I mean, it's relatively close to enclosed as it exists. It's a very weird structure. I don't really know how to define it. Like, you add one extra wall and then it's technically enclosed. That's kind of neither a here nor there thing, if I'm being honest.
Which I think if we cut it back, we would have to protect it from the weather elements.
Sure,
because it is-
currently the fence is kind of acting in that
Right, so
capacity.
so the garage is acting as one side, the fence is acting as the other, and then he's got 2 small fences on either side. So if we were to cut it back, we would have to enclose it somehow just to protect the wood from the weather elements, like from rain and stuff.
I think it's just too close. It's a tight area, and we have to deal with the property as it comes.
It is close, can't deny that. Probably the only thing that's really in their favor here is that it's low enough that it probably doesn't peak up and bother the neighbor, but it is very close, yes.
Instead of required 10?
Motion.
A second? And then I'll take a motion on the balance of the application. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Application number 231-25, Alex and Griselda Lovo. Permission to leave driveway on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet and leaving front yard occupancy of 79% instead of permitted 40%. Residence B District, west side of Islip Avenue, 100 feet south of Ironwood Street, Islip.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Griselda Lobo, owner and resident of 434 Islip Avenue. And
And Alex Lobo, I live in 434 Islip Avenue, Islip.
we're requesting a special permission to leave our driveway on side property line, not having required setback of 4 feet, and leaving front yard occupancy of 79% instead of the permitted 40%.
All right, planning any comments on this?
So this is Islip Avenue, State Route 111. It's a very busy road, so I think a bit more leniency than usual is warranted. That number definitely wouldn't be 79%. Planning would be more comfortable with a number around 50%, which is more than the usual board grant of 45, but obviously substantially less than what they're requesting here.
I think we've used 50% on the busy highway.
I believe you have, yes.
Mr. McCabe, you okay?
I'm okay with 50.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard in this matter? All right, I'll take a motion, please.
Motion to deny the application relating to the front yard occupancy at 79%, instead you grant 50%, and you grant the balance of the application.
Second.
All in favor? So you granted it 50% front yard occupancy. Okay, do you understand?
No, just, we decided to do this driveway the way we did it. I don't know if you guys read or remember that it was a big, really dangerous crash almost across the street from my house. And they were having 3 boys that soon we started to drive. It makes it a little bit difficult to get out of the property.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's too, you gotta remove some of the pavement, got it back to 50%,
All right,
okay?
thank you.
The next application, we have a request for an adjournment. Is anybody here on the application of Elsie Serrano and Jose Serrano?
Isn't Joshua in there?
Oh, yes, sorry. That'll be the next one. Now we're going to call application number 232-25, Joshua and Karen Guevara. Permission to leave shed 14.5 by 22.4, having rear yard of 2 feet instead of required 4 feet, and roofed over cellar entrance having rear yard of 24 feet instead of required 25 feet. Residence AA District, southeast corner of Nostrand Avenue and Fulton Street, Brentwood.
Good evening.
Give us your name
And
and address.
my name is Joshua Guevara, 6 Madison Avenue, Brentwood.
I'm Karen Guevara. Yes, 6 Madison Avenue.
I can't hear it.
Yeah, the shed.
No comment.
Thank you.
Thank
won.
you.
You won, you're done.
You won, you're all
Thank
set.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next application, we have a request to adjourn to June 10. Is anybody here on the application 233-25, Elsie Serrano and Jose Serrano? That application's been adjourned to June 10. Application number 234-25, Frank and Juliana Cardulo. Permission to leave roofed over patio and service area 12.2 by 15, having side yard of 1.4 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence A District, east side of Anchorage Drive, 1,368.42 feet south of Snedeker Avenue, West Islip.
Hello, I'm Frank Cardulo, 107 Anchorage Drive, West Islip, New York, 11795. We're looking to get a variance for a roofed-over bar that's less than 4 feet from the fence line.
I was hoping you might be able to speak to, how tall is this roof over? How high off the ground is it?
11
Approximately?
11.6, I think.
Okay.
A bar.
Yeah. So usually with something like this, having a little bit less of a setback is not really that big of a concern. With the bar there, that does tend to mean that there's activity there. It might be a nuisance to neighbors.
Nick and everybody else, I'm looking at the photographs of the roof of
Oh, I didn't know there's photos.
and it looks like looks like it's going to be sending the water over.
What do you mean?
No, there's nothing that would really support this.
If we lower the height?
Application number 235-25, Nether Bay LLC, permission to install second ground sign where only one is permitted. General Service C District, west side of South Clinton Avenue, 611 feet south of Montauk Highway, Bay Shore.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Blaine Ferraro, representative of Nether Bay. No roof overs, no. Hopefully you're done with those for the evening. I'm here with my dad, Charles Ferraro. We are here with Nether Bay at 26 and 36 South Clinton Avenue in Bay Shore with permission to install a second ground sign. It's 26 and 36 with a combined tax map lot, and I have some pictures and handouts for you of the sign design. So we have an approved permit already for one monument sign for 36 South Clinton, which is a 72-bed assisted living facility, which we just opened our doors about a month ago or so. And then next door is a second property, which will be called the Club at Nether Bay, which will be kind of like a daycare for seniors. So it's a different business and stuff, which is why we're requesting the two signs, because it's two different names. So you'll see on the photos, the first handout, Monument 1 is the sign that has been approved at 36 South Clinton, and Monument 2 on the right-hand side is what we're proposing for 26 South Clinton. And if you flip the page, you'll see the blackout on that photo is where the approved sign will be going. And on the third page, that is where we are proposing to put the second sign. Yes, they are separate entities. So Nether Bay, it's all owned under the same LLC, but different. So Nether Bay at Bay Shore is a 72-bed assisted living, and then the Club at Nether Bay is kind of like a branch off of it that would be like a daycare for seniors to go to. We could work something out for sure.
You say they are separate entities. The property is owned by the same LLC, but they are separate entities.
Okay.
Say that.
Yeah, just quick. These, the two signs, there's one for each building, as you established. They're also, if I can tell from looking at the site plan, they're pretty far away from the street, like 30-plus feet, it looks like.
They are, yes.
Yeah, so usually that's when we're more concerned about a ground sign. If it's on the street, it might be a distraction for drivers, looks to crowd the street. These are set back pretty far. They don't look very imposing, and like they were saying, it's for two different buildings, so we don't have an issue with it.
Anyone else would like to hear this matter?
Thank you. It's here for moral support.
Application number 236-25, Richard and Nadine Weber. Permission to erect one-story and two-story additions resulting in floor area ratio of 29.75% instead of permitted 25%. Residence B District, south side of Officials Avenue, 420 feet west of Coates Avenue, Holbrook.
Good evening.
Eric Bjornaby, architect and applicant of record. The project here is, we're looking for a floor area variance. The property is an interior lot, approximately 80 by 100 feet, 8,000 square feet in a residence B district. We're proposing a 530 square foot second story addition over the existing garage. Yes.
Planning, any comments?
No comment.
Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this matter? Sorry to interrupt. But it's a good interrupt.
Yep.
No one else wanted to be heard in this matter? All right, I'll take a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the application.
All in favor? Application is granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Application number 696-24, adjourned from December 17, 2024. Muna Zaidi, permission to erect two-story addition, 11.5 by 33.3, leaving floor area ratio of 30.8% instead of permitted 25%. Residence B District, southwest corner of Monroe Avenue and Pine Street, Brentwood.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Dean Kutsubis. My address is 121 Newbridge Road, Hicksville, New York, 11801. I'm here this evening with my client, Mrs. Zaidi of 32 Monroe Avenue in Brentwood. We're seeking a variance to expand existing residence. The proposed expansion will have an FAR of 30.8%, where the requirement is 25%. This is for a proposed two-story addition, which is 11.5 by 33.33.
I don't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
we could really shortcut this if we find out and look at this precedent for over 30%. Because we like nice, round, positive.
There's two cases. Both of them were granted on the basis that they predated the ordinance.
Then we haven't granted it.
How about at 30%?
Beyond what they're requesting here. It's like one was at 40%. The only thing that can really be said about that is sometimes it can be implied from those grants that maybe there are a lot of houses in the area that do have higher FARs that just aren't
So we have
in the
an
body of
otherwise
it.
compliant neighborhood.
We're not sure. But at the very least, no, there hasn't been a substantial amount of grants for above 30%.
30% is probably very doable.
Okay, so let me further explain, and maybe there could be an exception made for this. We were previously before this board, we adjourned the case actually in December. At that point, we had a much larger addition at the 38%, and also to legalize a driveway, which was exceeded coverage. And at the advice of this board and the other staff members I spoke to, I had the clients and the architect made revisions to the plans, to the variance, to get it to, we were able to reduce it to 30
Why
point.
don't you get it to 30%?
Because
Otherwise, we have a compliant neighborhood.
Bill, let him answer.
Okay, so the size of the room, if you take a look at the plans, this 11.5 on the outside would leave us with 11-foot wide bedrooms on the inside. We're adding 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms to this house. That's it. Originally, it was planned to be bigger. The need, this is, there's definitely a bit of a need which my clients will go into. There, it's my clients and her husband. They have 3 adult children, which she'll speak about the need for this. And they're also, some of the family members work from home, which also has a need to have this additional space in the house so it's not just sleeping rooms, but they need a room so they can have their office space and any work from home space as needed. I'd like to point out that a good portion of this addition is the stairway that goes up to the second floor. I understand you're sensitive about that 30%. That 0.8 is just a small number.
Dean, I don't know if you're aware that the building department no longer counts the area, they don't double count for the staircase. So they would only count on one floor or the other, not both.
Understood.
So I think that might take care of the 0.8 that you're concerned about.
Yeah,
But we're going to then, if we grant this, which I know you'd like us to,
I speak?
Okay, go ahead.
May I speak? Do I have
Yes,
permission
yeah.
to speak? All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Muna Zaidi. I'm the owner and the resident of 32 Monroe, and I request that this application be granted for the reason that I am a New York City public teacher, and I have a set salary. I have 3 adult children. At the moment, we only have 3 bedrooms. 1 bedroom is shared by my husband and myself, and then we have another bedroom for an adult son, and then another bedroom where 2 adult children are, residing. We don't have any room for my adult children to kind of work from home. I sometimes have to work from home. My husband works from home, and one of my adult child, he also works from home. We don't have enough money to go out and buy another house, a bigger house. This was the only possible solution that we could come up with. I request that the board grant this. I know I'm asking for a stretch. It's 30.8. We reduced it from 38. I paid a lot of money. I've been trying to get this since last August. I just don't have any more money, and I don't know what to do. If I don't have this, I don't know what else we can do, because we're really, really squeezed for space right now. And the market, there's no inventory. The houses that are out there, they're beyond our range. We just can't afford anything right now. This was like a feasible solution for us. Exactly, but the thing is that the bedrooms are going to be, they're already squeezed to the max, and then when you work from home and you live like in a little room, it's very depressing. And I have 3 adult children that are working from home. Well, 3 adult children that live with me at home, and they're going to be living at home for a while, so it's not like it's like a 1-year thing. The bedrooms are very, very small. It's only 0.8, sir. I understand. Well, maybe you could cap it at 30.8. I mean, I'm making a request. I mean, there's got to be a first for something somewhere, right? I understand. So then would I have to go back to the architect, ask her to shave off another 70 square feet? Because when I had discussions with different people in the town, they were giving me the impression that 31 might be like a good number where you would be willing to accept 31. That's why we kept it under 30.8. I spoke to different people. I spoke to Nancy. I spoke to, I don't know their last names, but I spoke to somebody in the town as well. Yeah, they said 31 would be a safe number, so I had the architect reduce it to 30.8. I had to pay her all over again to redesign everything.
If the calculations were incorrect and that the designer was unaware of the fact that we will exclude the area beneath the stairs. So in other words, the stairs have been double counted. So the discrepancy that the board is talking about here is 64.5 square feet. That's unquestionably one level of the stairs. Correct, Dean?
I think it's worth making the effort to double-check all the calculations, but if we're under 70 square feet, I think we can make an accommodation to get it right at that
I think you can do it
number,
without
and
even changing the plans, but to correct the gross floor area calculation.
Yes, and there is a possibility, there is other parts of the house which should be double-checked as well, and I'm sure we can, make something to come closer to that number, to that 30%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
37-25, Daniel Slane and Ashley Olin Slane. Permission to erect second-story addition, 32.9 by 47.7 irregular, leaving side yard of 9.8 feet instead of required 14 feet, and to leave shed having 14 feet behind the front line of the dwelling instead of required 20 feet. Residence A District, west side of Matinacock Avenue, 150 feet north of Dixie Lane, East Islip.
My name's Brian Kiefner, 630 Oak Neck Road, West Islip, New York, agent for the owners. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. We're proposing a second-story addition over the existing first story. The existing house has the setback issue, is non-conforming, so we're not altering that setback with the addition. And as far as the shed's concerned, the owners are willing to move it back so that it's no longer needing a variance, so it'll be 20 feet from the front of the house.
So you're saying the side yard of 9.8 is currently existing on the first floor?
Yeah, it's existing, so the house is going straight up from there.
Planning, any comments on this?
Yeah, as he was saying, it's going straight up. There is a few other cases of that exact thing happening in this neighborhood. At least 2 cases went, again, straight up at 9.8 actually exactly and 9.4. Another couple cases that were close but only a dormer, so a little bit different, but still, I don't think it's unreasonable in this neighborhood to be this close with the second story.
Okay, any questions from the board at this time? No, is anyone else would like to be heard in this matter? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second, please. All in favor? Aye. Application's granted.
All right, thank you very much.
Application number 238-25, Casey Cousins. Permission to erect one-story addition, 22.5 by 23.3, leaving side yard of 11.1 feet instead of required 14 feet, and to leave shed having side yard of 2.4 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence A District, west side of Manor Lane, 730 feet north of 7th Street, Bay Shore.
Good evening. I'm Michael Dunn, the architect for the Cousins at 256 Orinoco Drive, Brightwaters, New York, 11718. So the Cousins are planning on a one-story addition to the rear for a new kitchen. They are asking for the 11.1 instead of 14 on that side. There are some utilities coming out between the addition and the existing house. So that's kind of why we pushed it over that way just a little bit. We did know that the neighbor to the south has a similar side yard setback, so we were kind of following in line with that. Yes, the house to the south, right next door. Yes. Yes.
11.2, but effectively, yes. 11.2, 0.1 difference. But yes, it's the house directly to the south, so.
And this might have rounded up a little bit, so I know we were shooting for the same as next door. And the shed's been there for more than 12 years. It was prior to the owner. We're asking for 2.4 instead of 4 feet to leave that shed.
Any other questions from the board? No. Is there anyone else would like to be heard in this matter? You going to recuse? Okay. Second. All in favor? Aye. Application's granted.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Application number 239-25, Ileana Lujan. Permission to modify one-story addition, leaving side yard of 7.5 feet instead of required 14 feet, and total side yards of 19 feet instead of required 28 feet. Residence B District, north side of Quail Drive, 295 feet west of Crow Court, Brentwood.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Eliana Lujan. I live in 19 Quail Drive in Brentwood, New York, and I thank you for the opportunity of speaking today. The reason that I'm here is to kind... Oh, sorry.
The last person was really tall.
The reason I'm here is to kindly ask you to consider to keep the current extension that in the property.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Can you speak into the microphone? We can't.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
The reason that I'm here is to kindly ask you to consider to keep the current extension that I have in the property, which I inherited from my previous owner. The structure was already there, so I just made it better because it was the leak on it. I just made improvements and make it more functional. I understand the requirements are 14 feet away from the property line, and my original application for this meeting was 7.5 away from the property line. However, when I did my research and my careful thought, I would like the CVA to consider maybe 9 feet away from the property line. I believe the adjustment will be better for the zoning requirements. I'm a recent nursing graduate. I'm taking my NCLEX really soon. I have a very sick husband, and he has cancer, and I hope, this is my first home, and I hope I will have full hope and aspirations on the house. It's been very tough for the past 3 years, going to nursing school, and my recent husband in cancer status, so I just, hope you can hear my thoughts, and if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Okay, planning, any comments on this?
Yeah, so this addition on the side, there was a similar one for many, many decades here. It wasn't there legally, but it was there. So it was recently reconstructed. I think it came a bit closer. As it exists currently, it's too close. There's a very similar circumstance not too far away from here, where the board listened to only about a couple of years ago, in fact. And in that case, situation was very similar. There was an addition on the side, kind of like a screen room sort of deal, and they told them to pull that back to 9 feet. I would say that could be reasonable to do a similar situation here. They're trying to modify it to compliance. So. Currently, I would have to get the plan.
I think it's 4.5 from the property line at the moment.
It's not currently at 7.75 as it says in the call. That's what they were
4.5.
originally proposing to modify it to.
The current one right now is 4.5 away from the property. My application, 4.5. My application said 7 point. I'm going the other way. I know, it was there to begin with. I didn't, I usually made it better. That's all I did. I understand that, but I just want to keep as much as I can.
Yes, good evening to all of you gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ghazi Shahada. I live in 21 Quayle Drive, next door. And this lady, she just purchased the house a couple of years ago. And Ghazi, Ghazi, Shahade, Shehadeh. Yes, you're welcome. I'm against that. They just took an awning, little awning, if she wants to say exist. There's no such thing was existing there, except that little awning there. They took it, and I approached them. I said, don't do this. You're too close to my fence. I have some pictures. It's about 3 feet, 2 inches away from the fence. From the gutter to the fence is less than 2 feet. Yes, please. From no. Here is the picture. You could send someone, see what.
I can clarify that. So they are proposing to modify it towards conformity, but it was already reconstructed without permits to be closer to the property line. So that's what he's speaking to right now. So now they're proposing to pull it back from where they put it.
Well, I want it to be just the way it's supposed to be.
That the structure that's there was built without benefit permit.
Correct.
And now the applicant says, I want to remove it and have more room than exists. What the applicant is proposing, would that be something that's in keeping with the nation character regarding of what existed before?
That's a bit difficult to say. I don't think there's a substantial body of evidence for that. I can say 2 things to that. One, it is Residence B. There's a lot of 10-foot side yards in Residence B because that was legally conforming all the way until the early 2000s. And then there's that one other case somewhat nearby that had a similar situation, illegally built addition on the side that the board had them pull back to 9 feet. That's where I bring him up with that number from. It's just in the neighborhood right to the south of here, in fact, not too far away.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out
9 was that number.
What is your number that you think is legitimate for that neighborhood?
I think it would be very easy to say that 10 feet would definitely be probably well supported, just based on the history of the neighborhood. It's constructed in like the 50s and 60s, and that was the conforming setback for a long time.
So you're suggesting 10 feet?
I'm suggesting that it could be potentially 9 feet based on the board's previous decision that was, and that's not too far off of 10.
The building is a wiggle room. It's like, but not limited. Okay. It's permissive, so 9 feet would not be out of the question.
It would be consistent with the previous decision.
Anything else, sir?
That's it. Thank you.
I have nothing else to say. I just say whatever. So 9 feet is good? 9 feet is good? All right, thank you.
-25, Honora Stefan. Permission to erect two-story addition, 23.3 by 40.3 irregular, leaving floor area ratio of 33.16% instead of permitted 25%. Residence A District, east side of Secretog Lane East, 200 feet south of Bay 8th Street, West Islip.
Hi, my name is Honora Stefan. I live at 31 Secretog Lane, East West Islip. I mean, you have the information up there, what I'm requesting, correct?
We do.
I do want to say that the garage and a storage area, both of which are unlivable, are included in the RAF.
FAR.
FAR. I'm not the architect, obviously.
Planning, any comments?
I don't think the number is really supported. To be transparent about it, there are some grants above 30%, but this is next to Babylon Beach Estates, which is an area very unique in the town with a ton of undersized lots. And I don't think, usually when we're looking at that, we don't take into account the surrounding areas, we isolate it so that it can be its own entity because it's so unique in that sense of how non-conforming it is. If you take that out of the equation, there's nothing over 30% that was granted along the Secretog Lane section of this area.
And you are sure of that? Just
I'm
because there
relatively
are
sure, within 500 feet, yeah.
Just because there are two houses at the end of the block that appear to be over the 30%.
Within 500 feet, I guess, is what I would say. So I think you might be referring to like 4 right next to the marina there at the bottom?
Yes.
That one is 31% from what I read.
Right next to the marina?
Yeah, 4 Secretog
Okay.
Lane is right north of the marina. I think that one was
Okay.
like 31% if I recall correctly.
And the one on the opposite side of the street?
I don't know that one.
Okay.
Although those are both far enough away that the board wouldn't usually consider them.
Mm-hmm.
Usually.
Okay.
Does anyone else would like to be heard in this matter? Sorry.
Oh, no. Do we know what the present FAR is?
Not off the top of my head.
It just seems that 33.16, we don't have any precedent to support that.
Well, there's some precedent in Babylon Beach Estates within 500 feet at 33%, right?
There is. I just don't think it's really applicable because the
But it's within
circumstances are
500
different.
So, but there is precedent within 500 feet.
There is.
Okay, I just want to make sure the record is clear. And does any of that precedent go over 33%?
Some of it does, although most of that's legacy.
I think I'm responsible for a few of those.
The other one.
Babylon Beach Estates has a very long history of nonconformity. I don't know what the, oh, actually, wait, I might be able to get the existing FAR here.
You gonna write the brief?
Yeah, I don't know the existing FAR, but the proposed addition is about 1,300 square feet. So it's a very substantial addition being proposed.
Following up with Nick's saying, I think to go from a consistent 30 to 33.16, we just upped that neighborhood, and we all know, I mean, we have a gazillion cases from West Islip all the time. I think it's an otherwise compliant neighborhood. Understand that Babylon Estates next door, but that's built in a different.
I would posit that Babylon Beach Estates is a separate neighborhood.
Pardon me?
I would posit that Babylon Beach Estates is a separate neighborhood
Yes.
from Secretog Lane.
It's like if there was a condo next door, we wouldn't say, oh, look, there's 0 lot line, therefore we should grant it. It's different.
I won't tell anybody.
Yeah. You can hide it and figure something out.
I mean, I do have to say that this is a home that I did grow up in, born and raised, and then bought it from my parents, and now is my son and family will be moving into the home, along with me waiting to retire. So, does that help?
A little, but not enough.
I tried.
Yeah, no.
No, I think I already asked. Yeah, it was Islip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to make a motion that we deny the application, but grant 30% FAR.
Second.
Second, please, all in favor?
Let the record reflect that I voted opposed.
Okay, so what you're saying is you would have approved the motion?
He was outvoted for
I
it.
just don't like this motion.
Okay. So just one last question. The fact that the garage and the storage area are not livable spaces,
I did that.
No, thanks.
that doesn't have anything to do with, the square footage?
No, it all comes into the FAR.
Okay, so I have to go down to 30%?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to have an accessory structure like a storage shed, if that helps you and your family.
It doesn't because the storage area is underneath part of the house.
Well, I just meant when everybody moves in, if you need storage, as long as it's under 499, just check the code, because the code does discount modest-size sheds from gross floor area.
Okay. Just one last question. Once it is brought down to 30%, how long will I have to wait to come back here to get that approved? Or it will be?
It is.
You don't have to come back.
Approve the 30%.
Okay, it's approved at 30%.
One-stop shopping.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application number 169-25, adjourned from April 1st, 2025. Nicholas and Joni Isolano. Permission to erect two-story addition, 11.9 by 33.9, leaving side yard of 4 feet instead of required 14 feet, total side yards of 20.2 feet instead of required 28 feet, and floor area ratio of 30.5% instead of permitted 25%. Residence B District, west side of Cadman Road, 175 feet north of Webster Avenue, West Islip.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Scott Kahn, 68 West Main Street, Oyster Bay, New York. I'm here tonight, this evening, representing the Isolano family, addressing our concerns from our last meeting on April 1st. It was case 169-25. On our last request, we were proposing the addition on the south side of the property with a 4-foot setback. Now we are proposing the same addition only on the north side of the property with a 10.2-foot setback. That's only a 3.8 encroachment into the 14 feet. Our last request, we were proposing a 20.2 aggregate side yard. Now we're only asking for a 25.5 aggregate in lieu of the minimum 28, and that's only a 2.5 difference. Where this addition is being proposed, there is a school parking lot, and the nearest structure is over 400 feet away. Finally, we're asking for a 30.5% floor area ratio in lieu of the 25%. Due to the pie-shaped lot, as you can see, it's an irregular lot. We deducted that part of the back area of the property had to be deducted. All other aspects of the zoning are met. Again, the pie-shaped property, it gives us actually a 19-foot setback at the front of the property, much larger than the 14 feet. So as the property slopes towards the rear, that's where we're asking for the 10.2. .2 at the closest point. Correct. The front, the aggregate is actually 25.5 instead of the 28. Well, yeah, the second story is set back a little bit, which really the second story of this doesn't need any variance request at all. Right. No, that's it. I think it's a much less of a request than last time. It's, oh, sorry. Can't hear you.
For, there's a single grant for 32.5, then that's it. I don't think it would be, but
I did count the staircase twice, so that will, that, yeah, we could bring it in within the 30%.
Anyone else would like to be heard in this matter?
no, I have nothing further to add.
Thank you very much.
Application number 241-25, Kawaja Ahmed, permission to establish accessory apartment having gross floor area of 847 square feet instead of permitted 800 square feet, and 2 front doors instead of 1 visible front door. To leave chicken coop and run having rear yard of 3 feet instead of required 10 feet, and retaining wall on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence B District, east side of Ocean Avenue, 400 feet north of Michigan Street, Ronkonkoma.
Good evening. I'm John Roy, 66 March Court, Selden, agent for the owner. We are looking to establish a accessory apartment in the basement of 847 square feet. Originally, it went through a couple of zoning reviews. It started at 852 and then went up to 963. And we're proposing to cut it down to the 847. It does have a rear basement stairway entrance, the only entrance. And they're proposing that a family member actually is going to be living down there. As far as the second front door, that just came up recently. It has nothing to do with the apartment. It's completely on the other side of the house. It accesses the kitchen. And it actually looks like if the house was built with that door, it looks like it by the, if you look at the roof lines. I do have closer pictures showing the door right next to the garage. Yes, over to the left, the white door.
Right.
Yeah, that leads into the kitchen, and there's another door next to it that goes into the garage. The front door is actually about almost 9 feet set back from the front of the house. And the house is about, I think it's like 76 feet off the road, so it's pretty far off the highway. And as far as the retaining wall, that the homeowner and the neighbor on the south side, when he bought the house in 2015, there was no wall. And the runoff, that property next to him is substantially elevated, you could see. So rain runoff and, it was an issue. So they together decided to put that wall up. And you can see the homeowner, my client planted all the evergreens, like every 3 feet they're gonna grow to, cover the wall. The other neighbor already has plantings on his side. So, we're looking to maintain that. And the chicken coop, it's 3 feet off the property line. I know behind them, there's a lot of trees and bushes, and the house directly behind them to the east is about 150 feet away from there. So we're looking to maintain that as well.
Okay. Planning, any comments?
You may have spoke to this, but I didn't hear if you did. Well, how long has the second front door been on this?
To me, it looks like it's been like the house was built that way. If you look at the roof lines by the garage, there's a natural overhang that it seems like the front door was and always has been there. You can see it's got the brick facade. I have a picture of the inside. showing it is in the kitchen opposite the basement stairway.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell that it was been there for at least like 15 years. Unfortunately, Street View doesn't go back much further than that.
Right.
But it was at least there as early as I could get in Street View. So the only reason curious, but I don't think we really had a specific restriction on it until the 90s. Mary would probably know better than me on that. But so if it was part of the original construction, it's probably not that big of a deal. As far as the rest of it, the chicken coop, we don't tend to like chicken coops near property lines. Chickens are loud. The retaining wall, though, I agree. The neighboring property has a higher grade than they do. I think the retaining wall is very reasonable given that. The retaining wall's fine. The neighbor's property is higher grade, so it's reasonable.
It was 1992 when we adopted the accessory apartment ordinance, and that's when we first referenced that it shouldn't look like a two-family house. There shouldn't be two front doors, 2 meters shouldn't be visible.
Understood.
And then later, the code also referenced 2 front doors in order to define and limit single-family home ownership. So that's when that may have been in the mid-90s as well,
Yeah,
but for a different purpose. But oftentimes, if the board has granted these, and they haven't done it very often at all, I shouldn't use that word, it's when the second door is recessed in a breezeway. Would you describe this as almost like a recessed second front door?
It is, it's recessed from the garage. And actually, like I said, the front door is actually recessed 9 feet in from the front of the house as well.
Yeah, you can see it.
The right side of the house there, the cedar shake is like 9 feet farther out than the front door. Eggs are expensive now. You got to grow your own. They do have the room. It would be a little bit of a labor, but they could do it. Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Application number 242-25, Norley Castaneda, permission to erect 2-story dwelling on lot partially in Wetlands Overlay District having yield of 0.94 instead of required 1, and to erect cabana with plumbing features having gross floor area of 496 square feet instead of permitted 400 square feet, including bathroom of 30 square feet instead of permitted 20 square feet, all having floor area ratio of 29.6% instead of permitted 25%. Residence A District, south side of Wagstaff Lane, 245 feet west of Wagstaff Lane, West Islip.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. James Zapka from Todd O'Connell Architects, 1200 Veterans Highway, Hop, New York, 11788. I am here tonight representing the case for Norley Castaneda. It's a new 2-story dwelling that we designed at 142 Wagstaff Lane in West Islip. The application in front of you, it's pretty straightforward. The house itself, we actually have conforming to all side yard, front yard, rear yard setbacks. We're here tonight for a variance grant of 29.36% of FAR, where 25% is required. This is including the pool cabana and roof over. I believe there were some code changes recently where now the plumbing fixtures are in it. It does have a calculation within the actual FAR itself. So we're here tonight for the grant of 29.36%.
I'm sorry, the acoustics are terrible, so.
I'm sorry.
I'm not catching it, it's not your fault. You're going to knock down the building that's there?
Yes, correct. The existing house has actually already been demolished. It's gone. So we are proposing a brand-new two-story flood-compliant house with pool cabana.
So the house has been demolished already?
I believe so, yes, yeah.
I was just reading the whole, it says to erect.
It's done by March 1st. That's taxable status.
Yeah, they got it. They need to do it.
Okay. Planning, any comments?
Just to note, the one kind of weird thing here with the cabana having a larger gross floor area, I believe that's including the roof over, which is not really what the code was implemented to try to prevent. So it gets counted as part of the overall cabana because it's attached, but the actual cabana itself is around 300 square feet.
Correct, yes. I believe it's because the bathroom size we're seeking a variance for. It's bigger than the 20 square feet, and now it has plumbing, so it does count in the calculation, where it wouldn't if I didn't have a bathroom.
Yeah, it's the plumbing fixtures that make it so there's a limit on the size of it.
Are you okay with it? Okay. Does anyone else like to be heard in this matter? Okay, take a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second. All in favor? Aye, application's granted.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Application number 243-25, Regina Giglio, trustee of the Regina Giglio Revocable Living Trust. Permission to erect one-story addition expanding legal nonconforming use of three-family dwelling by less than 25% and to leave driveway on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence B District, west side of Grant Avenue, 466.5 feet north of Main Street, Islip.
Hello, my name is Ray Lamana with Tri-Build Construction, 200 Birchwood Road, Medford, New York, 11763. I am here representing Regina Giglio, trustee of Regina Giglio Revocable Living Trust. We are looking to add to the rear 17%, and the main issue that we've come across is the driveway is along the property line. It's been there for forever, from what I know. I did submit a photo.
I'm sorry?
I did submit a photo when we put this in.
Got one photo here. Right?
Yes.
Planning, any comments?
There are a lot of multifamily dwellings on Grant Avenue. I counted at least 6 that have been before the Board of Appeals before, not counting ones that may not have been before the Board of Appeals. So multifamilies are very much in the character of the neighborhood for that section of Islip. And otherwise, it's a completely conforming addition.
Okay. Does anyone else would like to be heard in this matter? Mr. Wexler will take the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Application's granted.
Thank you.
Application number 244-25, Estate of Andrew Nangano. Permission to leave dwelling on lot having width of 50 feet instead of required 75 feet, lot area of 10,799 square feet instead of required 11,250 square feet, front yard of 37.9 feet instead of required 40 feet, and side yards of 11.1 feet and 13.3 feet instead of required 14 feet each. Residence A District, east side of Brookdale Avenue, 311.8 feet south of King Street, Bay Shore.
Yes, how you doing? My name is Juan Valdiviezo, Realtor for the family, the estate. 35 Arcade Drive, Hauppauge, New York, 11788. So basically, Dad had passed away, and the kids inherited the house. They called me to sell the property. It's probably going on close to a year now. They ended up going to contract twice, and in the title searches that came up, they could never find the original CO. They had a CFC for a second-story dormer shell only. So the banks really were okay with it, but attorneys, when they did digging, obviously give the buyers their best advice, and they probably said 2 times too big of a risk just in case something happens. So that's when we ended up just applying, just to figure it out, just to square it away, to sell it without any issues.
Okay, planning, any comments on this?
So this house has seemed to have been here for at least 70 years. That's according to the assessor. I think it's actually been there even longer than that, possibly since the late 30s or 40s. It was originally divided off. And like he said, the town actually issued a compliance certificate in the 70s for this. They just never actually got a CO for the house itself. So that's what brings them here tonight.
They did a chain of, the town, I guess the zoning, or ZBA, they asked me to get a chain of title going back to 52. Hearing from the family, we requested it from the 30s, and there were some deed exchanges happening in the 30s and 40s. I can't say the structure, but there was stuff moving around there.
We do have a report from the town attorney of the chain of title that you did submit to our office.
Okay.
And the finding was that it has not been held in common ownership with any other property since at least
October 29th, 1936.
October 29, 1936.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions at this time? No? Anyone else like to be heard in this matter? No? Okay, I'll take a motion, please. I'll make a motion to grant the application. All in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted.
All right, thank you.
Okay, everybody, we have 13 accessory apartments and 4 two-family family use onlys to renew for a period of 3 years.
Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye.
And we have 2 applications to read into the record. Got one, Ed?
I got one.
Okay. And reporter, please. Thank you. Application number 13-25, Dennis and Renee DiStefano. In accordance with a proposed written decision dated May 6, 2025, the application is denied with regard to the side yard setback of the pool, granted the remainder of the application, with the applicants permitted a period of 6 months in which to remove or relocate the pool to conformity. On motion of?
Motion. Second.
Application number 83-25, Michael Ferrari. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated May 6, 2025, the application is granted as amended on condition that the roofed-over patio and roofed-over cellar entrance never be enclosed, and the two-family family use only is granted for a period of 3 years. On motion of?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap. Thank you.
I gotta run it.